Now, typically, I would say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, but it's not really now, is it? Not if you're a Mortal Kombat 1 diehard anyway. Today, we're going to be talking about the rise and well, I was going to say rise and fall. Obviously, there was no rise of Mortal Kombat 1. The only thing this game rose was the amount of hours that gamers wasted on this half-baked full-price game. Now, you guys have seen all the reactions. You've seen the crash outs. You've seen the disingenuous malarkey spread about this game. And you've even seen Ed Boon saying on video that the game is going to be supported for years to come. And you've seen his tweets. I'm not going to bore you with all of that. I'm a day late to the discussion. You've seen it already. You've seen it over the years. We all know that it was an absolute lie. Now, I'm not here to argue that it's NRS's fault that the game is dead, and I'm not here to argue that it's Warner Brothers' fault that the game is dead. Either way, the game is dead, and the reputation of the franchise has never been lower. That is just a fact. Whoever's fault it is does not matter as much as the fact that the game's reputation is shot. Damage has been done to this beloved franchise, the likes of which we have never seen before, both by the stupid movie that came out some time ago and by this stupid game. So whilst you watch me getting folded by an alien invasion on Helldivers, allow me to explain to you why this game failed and what needs to be done going forward. Now, the first and absolutely most important thing that needs to be done is you need to scrap this timeline. This timeline is absolutely disastrous and there is very little good that came from it, and any good that did come from it initially was shat on even further when Chaos Reigns came out, which for those of you that don't know is the laughable story expansion they released to expand the lore of this timeline. Firstly, whose bright idea was it to change Scorpion from Hanzo Hasashi to Kuai Lang? That's like Capcom waking up one morning and saying Ken is now Ryu and Ryu doesn't exist anymore. Like, why? There was no need. And it's not like Scorpion is just any character. He is your poster child, the most popular character in the history of the franchise next to Sub-Zero. Who in their right mind sat in that board meeting and proposed this, and what group of mindless seals started clapping their flappers together saying it was a good idea? Absolutely shambolic thought processes across the board. I could have told you guys for free that was a dumb idea. You get any actual Mortal Kombat fan in on those meetings and they would have wanted to slap each and every one of you. What an arse backwards choice, and I imagine those sort of proposals were made pretty early in the game's inception, and so I can imagine the tomfoolery that blew up from there. On top of that, you previously teased that we might be going back to the beginning of the Mortal Kombat timeline with the Great Kung Lao, but instead you abandon the idea and just jump however many years into the future. A future we do not care about and we know nothing about. Another timeline reset that we don't want any part of. Listen guys, all of this jumping through time and going back and forward, just pack it in. We have had enough of it. We like self-contained stories. You're trying to make shit way too grand, and that's the exact same thing Marvel has been doing for a very long time. You desperately try to cash in on that MCU money, but you did it a little too late. The MCU has been doing the super high stakes space shit for a while now, and for a time it was fine. For a time it was exciting, it was new, but now people are sick of it, and that is no more evident than with the success of the Thunderbolts. These weren't the Avengers in space fighting aliens. These were boots on the ground warriors in a self-contained story that had gritty and hard-hitting action with minimal green screen and CG. Instead, they opted for more practical stunts and a story that didn't span 7 universes. That's what we want for a new Mortal Kombat game. I don't need 10 different worlds and 12 different Elder Gods and Titans fighting over them. I need my fighters who bleed and have to deal with proper consequences battling each other to the death in a tournament called Mortal Kombat. Remember that? When it was about tournaments? The problem is, where do you go now? You can't redo the original Mortal Kombat games again because it's been done to death. You can't continue with this timeline because it's shit. You can't make a new timeline because we're sick of that as well. So there's only one logical place to go, at least to me. And that's back to the original timeline before the events of Armageddon. We don't need another Armageddon event. We don't need another Armageddon threat. It stops being special when you do it over and over again. There's a couple of options, obviously. I would go back to the main timeline. You could go back to before the events of Armageddon, or you could go back to the events during Deception. Either way, it would be better than whatever we've got now. Don't race swap your characters. Don't gender bend anyone. Nobody likes that shit. You're not winning brownie points from anyone. It's cringe. We don't appreciate the virtue signaling. Stop messing with what has already been established and well received. If you've already got a winning formula, stop messing with it. I understand wanting to change things every now and then, but some of the things that you did in Mortal Kombat 1 were so arse backwards that of course the reactions were going to be super visceral to them. Now this game needs enough time to sit in the oven and cook. Do not aggressively push it out again, or you'll have to deal with even worse numbers going forward. It's important to talk about the offline modes and the general infrastructure of Mortal Kombat. For a long time, Mortal Kombat was applauded as having the best offline experiences with a myriad of game modes. So how is it that your games become more successful over time with bigger budgets and you produce shit like Invasions? Invasions. Now, did Invasions get better over time? Yes, it did. I would imagine so, and I would hope so, given that you couldn't have released a bigger pile of shit if you ate every kebab on the planet, squatted real deep, and tried your best to squeeze one out. You simply couldn't. Once again, this got approved by a group of people. Let me just stress that Invasions was approved by the very same people that are applauded for making good offline modes. Did you not play it beforehand? Did you just arrogantly say yes to the drunk intern that suggested this? Like, who in their right mind saw Invasions and thought, yeah, this is where we're going to go with our new Mortal Kombat game? Motor combat, chess combat, puzzle combat, conquest mode, creator fighter, hell, even MK11's The Crypt were all solid game modes. But you thought Invasions was the next step and the natural progression for the franchise. Insanity. You need to release something fresh, and my suggestion, expand on The Crypt that you had in Mortal Kombat 11, because you actually had something special there, something worthwhile. Or integrate The Crypt into conquest mode. Conquest mode in Mortal Kombat Deception is something that should still be marveled at today for how expansive and engaging it was. For how much love and care you put into each realm, for how much it offered the player, you have the blueprint right there. Do it and I guarantee you it will sell, because all you really got to do is do what you did before with newer graphics, more options, and more areas in these worlds or these realms to explore. And just make the worlds big enough that you can go exploring to unlock items. Maybe you need to be in different locations at different times. Maybe I go to the Nether Realm at night time to get a specific weapon. Maybe I go to Earth Realm in the daytime to fight a specific fighter. Again, the blueprint is right there. Please guys, like, you've done the chapter story mode since Mortal Kombat vs DC. Enough is enough. You need to move on. And as a matter of fact, you need to go back, because what you had before was special and people have been talking about it for ages. So please listen to your consumers and understand that you had something great there and we want conquest mode back. Whilst we're on that, please follow a line of coherence when portraying your characters, because the power levels in Mortal Kombat make absolutely no sense. Now, fighting game power levels in general tend to be a bit silly, but Mortal Kombat really does take it to the next level. 1 minute a character is really powerful, and then the next minute they're getting their arse whipped just because it's someone else's chapter. It's so dumb. In no universe should Tanya be beating a Noob Saibot. Noob Saibot is the former Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei. What does Grandmaster mean to you guys? You don't need to win just because it's your chapter. The story will go on. Things will be okay. Anyways, away with the chapters and back to what we all loved in Conquest mode. You also need to return the character designs to the more gritty and sexy look they had. Yes, the character designs were better back in the day than what we have now. You guys ever go to Comic-Con and you see any of the girls cosplaying the new Mortal Kombat designs? No. You don't see them anywhere. You see the classic designs, the ones that you think are sexist. Same goes for the dudes. I don't know who you're trying to pander to with this game, but it's not the audience that made your franchise super popular. I can tear a woman in half. I can literally rip her from her tits, but God forbid I see her ankles. That's a step too far. In the Mortal Kombat world, the over-the-top costumes are perfectly acceptable. You put polls out on social media and you let them know which costumes they want back, and I guarantee you, we all know where they're going to go. They're going to go in favor of the older costumes. Now, that's not to say everything in Mortal Kombat 1 was bad. I think some of the character models were pretty good. I didn't mind the character models and the face models for some of these characters, but the costumes themselves, the fabric that they wear on their bodies, they are uninspired in Mortal Kombat 1, and we like the older designs. The game has a very horror feel to it, has a very like over the top feel to it. If I can take somebody and literally rip their nuts off, showing a bit of cleavage should not be a problem. The music in Mortal Kombat has taken such a nosedive that it is honestly a little bit depressing to turn the game on and listen to the crap that we've got in there. Now, in Chaos Reigns, there was a stage added to the game that does have pretty good music, but it's so few and far between in the last 3 Mortal Kombat games. MKX, MK11, and MK1 do not have good music, and it pains me to say that because Mortal Kombat has some of the greatest music in all of fighting games. How can you go from that to what we have now? You need need to invest in the music section of your game. I mean, just look at Tekken and Street Fighter. They are well known for their music. Tekken more so. People love the music in Tekken. That shit is in people's gym playlists. But Street Fighter 6 is going leaps and bounds to make people love their music as well. Eleanor's theme just dropped on the Capcom channel, and it's a great theme. Hell, Soul Calibur, Dead or Alive, Virtua Fighter, these games have very good music. You should not be overlooking that aspect of a fighting game, because when you have a beautiful stage that fits the theme and the aesthetic of the game, you want the music to do the exact same thing. It really gets people in the fight. You need to go back to the music you were producing before, because Mortal Kombat used to have some of the best music I've heard in all of gaming. It was iconic stuff. It is so disappointing to hear where things have gone now, because it really feels like they don't give a shit. I don't know who you've employed to do your music now, but it is killing the tone of the game. Go back to the old ways. They were working. That's why the game turned into a juggernaut. Now, we spoke a little bit about not messing with characters, but when you bring a roster out in a new Mortal Kombat game, I'm thinking 24 to 26 characters is a good number for a game that has hundreds of characters. I think a good idea would be to go with your mainstays, scrap this cameo nonsense. I do not want to see my favorite version of a character stuck behind a cameo. Nobody wants cameos to come back. People might be enjoying it now, but the overall player base, I think, would be more than happy to see 1v1s or 2v2s. Now, when I say 2v2s, much like we had in MK9, it can just be a mode you add on. It doesn't have to be the central point of the game. The 1v1 should be. You need to fix your sound design. Even the sound design in Mortal Kombat 1 leaves a lot to be desired. Now, in the Fatal Blows, they're actually pretty good. I do quite like how they've done it in the Fatal Blows, but in the general fighting, it feels like I'm punching a pillow a lot of the time. It is not good by any stretch of the imagination. And if you do think it's good, you need to remember that this is a game about crunching people's bones and breaking their backs. When I punch someone in the face, I want to feel like I've just shattered every single thing in their body. It needs to be impactful. It needs to mean something. It needs to make people cringe. I mean, Mortal Kombat's known for its violence, so up the violence during the actual gameplay. The fatal blows and the fatalities, yeah, the violence is there, but the grittiness of the fight, it's not there. And we need to see that. I mean, you just look at some films like The Raid, where you want to talk about gritty fight scenes and you really feel like you are there when people are getting punched and kicked. Mortal Kombat doesn't have that. They need to fix the sound design as well. But going back to the roster, I want to talk about guest characters a bit. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like guest characters are not exciting. They're very exciting. Everybody loves a guest character. Do I want 6 guest characters in a game when I'm missing a bunch of the mainstays? Hell no. Now, if it was me, I would go the MK9 approach or something similar. Release a guest character in the opening of the game. So when the game is releasing, you can market that character. Let's say, for example, Kratos, like they did in Mortal Kombat 9. You market the game with that character. It's like, oh my god. You know, let's say, for example, I'm not saying that this is going to happen or it will happen in any Mortal Kombat game, but let's say, for example, Blade is a Mortal Kombat character now. When you're bringing out the next Mortal Kombat game, Blade is your guest and that is your guy. You put a lot of time and effort into him. You focus in on him. That's your guy. And then maybe for the last season, you bring in another guest to spice it up a bit. You know, let's just say, for argument's sake, John Wick. John Wick is the final guest character. We've got 2 guest characters. They feel special. This is their Mortal Kombat game. Not a game where I've got 6 guest characters. I mean, you look at the definitive version of this game that they've just announced. The whole thing is guest characters. I'm like, Matt, am I even looking at Mortal Kombat right now? Like, you've got the Mortal Kombat characters very small on the screen than all the guest characters. And I remember particular content creators saying, this is a good thing. This will boost sales. Well, look at it now. The game is closing off and we are nowhere near the sales of its predecessor. And the thing is, Mortal Kombat is a big enough franchise that of course they could even surpass those numbers. 15 million should not be an unrealistic number for a franchise the size of Mortal Kombat. It can be done, but they do need to go back to the old ways. The aesthetic of the old 2D arcade games and the 3D games are unmatched. The music, unmatched. The rosters, unmatched. Now, to be fair, Mortal Kombat 1's roster was not bad, but they took a lot of the 3D characters and they bastardized them. They are the 3D characters in name that we remember and that we love, but they're not really them anymore. They've changed things up, and you could argue, oh, it's a new timeline. I would say, stop doing that then. Stop messing with characters that we already know, we already love. We're looking at a game right now that is not really recognizable to a lot of the old school diehard players. Even the way you've set up the store with the FOMO, I mean, we've spoken about this with Tekken as well. It's not good. It doesn't look good. I mean, it might be a business practice that makes you money, but ultimately, I don't think anybody really enjoys stuff like that. I think you do need to make sure that you are making your core players happy. Now, hopefully we can move away from this nonsense. And don't get me wrong, if you like Mortal Kombat 1, more power to you. I'm not here to tell you what to play. I'm just calling it as it is. The game did not sell as well. There is a reason for that. There is a good reason to bring up numbers. If a game sold 30 million, then we know that someone like me, I just personally don't like it, but the masses like it. Objectively speaking, the numbers speak truth. And they basically tell us that the people that liked MK11, MKX do not like this game, at least half of that player base. And you got to think about word of mouth as well. Things get around. People speak. You do not want your game being spoken about in this light. I don't know if you need to get John Tobias back. I don't know who you need to get back, but you guys need to pay attention. You need to put less effort into birthday shoutouts and more effort into things that we actually want. Nobody wants to see another version of Invasions done. If you sit on that couch and say, we're updating Invasions again and we're bringing it back to Mortal Kombat 2 or Mortal Kombat 12 or whatever they call it, people are going to lose their shits and the crash outs will be completely justifiable. A lot of people argued with myself and argued with other content creators that we were dooming the game. But dooming is a dumbass's way of saying that you're not lying, I just don't like what you're saying. And look at where we are now. The definitive edition of Mortal Kombat 1. That means it's done. You might get balance patches. You probably get a balance patch. I imagine you probably will. In terms of content, once that definitive version drops, whatever the date is, I can't even remember. That is it. That's it. It's over. Now, maybe in that definitive version, there's a bit of extra content, maybe. But after that drops, definitive means it's over. They have read the final rights of this game and thank God, so we can finally move on. Now, whether it's going to be a new Injustice game or a new Mortal Kombat game, whatever road you go down, please do not repeat the mistakes of the past. Yes, you had a good run with your chapter system and generally the way things were working for a long time, but times change and it's time to move on. And sometimes things you did many years ago work. And I do think the formula used in the 3D games and some of the older 2D arcade Mortal Kombat games are things that can work today. I really hope that the Mortal Kombat team gets their act together. Whoever it is that caused this game to be a disaster, I'm not here to argue whether it's Warner Brothers or NetherRealm, because ultimately it doesn't really matter. What matters is what the product is when it's given to me on a plate. That is what I have to review. All the speculation, it can be fun to do sometimes. It can be good conversation to have with people to speculate what is going on behind the scenes, but it doesn't really matter because this is the game that we have at the end of the day. This is the game we bought, and a lot of us feel like we wasted our money. If you don't feel like you wasted your money, good for you. I'm happy for you. I don't want someone to waste their money. But clearly from the responses online, from the dwindling player numbers, and from the poor sales in comparison to its predecessors, it obviously didn't live up to the expectations. We can only hope and pray. I imagine that next year we're probably going to get an announcement for another Mortal Kombat game, maybe early 2027. To be honest with you, I would let the franchise just sit on ice for a little bit because the damage that MK1 did to the reputation, it might be too soon to announce another one. So I'd say just let it chill for a bit, go do something else, maybe make that horror fighting game that you clearly want to make, maybe another Injustice game, maybe Shaolin Monks. I think that's the type of Mortal Kombat game that people will be okay to see even after this debacle. But you guys let me know what you think. It's a shame that it had to go down this way, but we said it many times and we called it basically 2 weeks into the game's release. A lot of people said that I was dooming, that I was just talking shit, that I was just there to do it for the views, and you can say all of that, but what you can't say is you can't call me a liar. I'll catch you guys very soon. Take care and peace.